It's the Rocket Mortgage Classic at Detroit Golf Club. And does course history matter here? Stick around to find out. What is up, everybody? It's your boy DFS Up North, aka Josh Thomas, and we are here with DFS Army talking this week about the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit, Michigan. The Marshall Mathers Open. We are right across the street from 8 Mile at historic Detroit Golf Club, a classic Donald Ross design from 1918 that the PGA Tour professionals are going to absolutely tear apart this week, as long as we don't get any weather. So it is it's an interesting week. I'm excited. We had the 5th major last week, the 3M Open. The field is a little bit better this week, although the golf course is a little bit worse. But we are kind of in that in-between season until the FedEx Cup playoffs, which is starting here in a week, I believe. So yeah, we got the Rocket Mortgage Classic this week. This is the 4th incantation. Is that the word for it? Not really sure of it. So we got a little bit of data. Again, if you're not a DFS Army subscriber, be like my boy Johnson J2, take down 100K in Showdown, or be like my boy Duster, who moves on in the Fantasy Golf World Championship with 363 points. Top 150 go to the next round and get to play this week for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Top 40 get into the live final for the FedEx St. Jude, I believe. I think that's the next one. But yeah, so we've been crushing it over at DFS Army. My 4-day last week was we had a hard. I mean, I fell victim to Svensson like everybody else. Nick Hardy didn't play as well as he probably could have. But it was a decent week for me overall. We busted about even on the week, a little bit up with Showdown because round 3 Showdown, like normal, we crushed it. If you want to become a DFS Army VIP, you can use that code Up North. That gets you 10% off. And they that works for VIP, I believe, only. But if you just want to try us out for a week, you can do PGA. I was looking at my referrals last week. Looked like we picked up a couple people who are just trying for a week. Hopefully they stick around and try a little bit more, but don't sleep on our other sports. We just doing some VIP breakdowns of how to use our domination station for showdowns in NFL, because NFL is coming up. We're like less than a month away and we got preseason coming up. All right, preseason is such a big moneymaker here at DFS Army. Keg, those guys crush that. But the showdown optimizer tool really my boy Spreadsheets from Canada. He's been working on breaking down how to use the domination station to really get to lineups that have a chance to win based on previous data that we have from showdown contests, and I am like excited about it. We are looking at printing money here, and I don't like to say that very often. I'm not a huge optimizer type of person. You guys know, I mean, I play a lot of, I build with the optimizer a lot, but a lot of where I found my niche has been in like 3max, single entry, things like that. So I am really excited about showdowns this year, and of course we'll have the showdown breakdowns for the Monday, the Thursday, the Sunday night with me and Bobby and me and Bobby and Geek, the triumvirate for showdown. So I'm excited about it. But hey, let's get to the Marshall Mathers Open. Let's go. 8 Mile. Be careful where you park your car here. We got Detroit Golf Club, par 72, 73, 70. They've tried to lengthen this course a little bit because here's the deal. When our boy Donnie Ross designed this in 1918, 36 holes on here, North and a South course. We use a combination of the two. Or 1916, I was 2 years off, right? Just after Francis Ouimet won the U.S. Open, they built this for golf at the time using hickory clubs and Varner flyers, and the technology has overcome that. And maybe more so than anything here, it's not necessarily the length. They've done a decent job of finding tee boxes that can bring some of these bunkers into play that Ross intended them to. Robert Trent Jones, Arthur Hills, Bruce Hepner were involved in that. The problem is that the greens didn't have a ton of slope to begin with. They're all a little turtleback like Ross typically does, but over the years the slopes and things just through wear and tear and winter and things like that, and it's been 100 years, they just don't break as much. So what we see is guys just kind of pouring in 30 footers and 40 footers, and it's a fairly straight putt. So what we've seen in the past is that this has come down to really who can putt the best. And we're going to look at some of the former winners here, but that's what it comes down to. The greens are fairly small, 5,150 square feet on average. There's a decent amount of bunkers at 87, but only one water hazard roar. We saw a ton of water balls last week, especially with Piercy on, the one out of the trap on 14 there, where he really blew the tournament up and let Tony Finau, our boy Big Tone, sneak in and get the win. We only get water and play on one hole this year or on this event. So we're not going to see a ton of penalty strokes. There's not a lot of OB. So it's really a pretty, I hate to say it, it's a pretty boring course. There's not a lot of trouble here. Pound it. I mean, so here's the deal. Old course like this, we've seen guys like Bryson do well here. We've seen bombers really, really play well, where you can just bomb it, gouge it out with your wedge. The rough at 4 inches really isn't that thick. It's not terrible if you miss the fairway here. The penalty's not that big. So you just get wedge onto the green, and whoever can get it tight and putt is in good shape. But what we have seen, though, is that the shorter guys can win. Nate Lashley won here as a Monday qualifier and averaged 40 yards less off the tee than Bryson. So multiple ways to get it done here. We get Bent Poa. Some of the comp courses we have are TBC Twin Cities, TBC Deer Run, where we played the John Deere a couple weeks ago. TBC River Highlands, I think, is a really good one. Cromwell, Connecticut, where we play the Travelers. I think that fits this course a little bit more just because of the sort of tree-lined fairways and things like that. So those are the courses that I'm using to say, hey, where do guys, kind of fit in here? Average cut line -3, like that tells us right away that this is a birdie fest. Average winning score over the 3 years was -22, and the average field score was -11. You gotta make birdies. Birdies are better. You got to score on the par fives. And does course history matter here? And the answer is no. I kind of teased that in the beginning there, but we saw Cam Davis come here and win last year after 2 straight missed cuts. We've seen guys go miscut T2. There's a couple of guys, Troy Merritt, Kevin Kisner, who do have good course history here, but I'm not off somebody just because they haven't played well here in the past. And I mean, I know that the sample size is fairly small with only 3 prior events, but it's not something that I'm necessarily looking at this week. I'd rather look at sort of the comp courses and then just in general how guys are playing, right? Like I said, it turns into a putting contest, so you got to be able to putt. Fairways are pretty easy to hit. You can bomb and gouge, but like I said, short hitters tend to play fairly well. Right now, the weather doesn't look huge. Maybe a slight AM/PM advantage. I'm filming this on Monday. This could clearly change, but I don't think that the weather is going to play a huge role this week. Former winners, like I said, Cam Davis -19. We've actually seen sort of the same thing that we saw at the 3M, where as they've played this tournament every year, they've adjusted and made the course a little bit harder, a little bit more difficult for these touring professionals. So the scoring average has come down a little bit from Nate Lashley winning as a Monday qualifier at -25 to now Cam Davis winning last year at -19. What all these guys have in common is that they putted the lights out. Lashley crushed. DeChambeau was unreal. Not only was he like leading the field in putting, but he averaged 328 off the tee. So you put those two things together, you're going to win by a million, right? Came from behind on the weekend. Cam Davis said he had a fairly poor first round and then kind of fought his way back into the lead. So you don't, just because you're out of contention on Monday or on Thursday doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to be out of contention on Sunday. But like I said, there's a bunch of different ways to get it done tee to green here, but where it's really going to matter is how many putts you can pour in. And unfortunately, that's not super predictable, right? That's the hard part about a tournament like this is that, week to week, I'm going to look at stroke gain approach. I'm going to look at, birdie or better rate. I'm going to look at, where depending on the course, does around the green matter, things like that. Putting is just so difficult to predict. I'll say this in my plays this week, I'm going to have a decent mixture of guys who are really, really good putters typically. And then guys who maybe have the potential to have a great putting week like Cam Davis did or like Bryson did and find a way to win. So with my core plays this week, we are going to do so my core lately has been, it's hard because you look at the field right away, and I film this on Monday, and I decide who my core is going to be on Monday, and that might change a little bit through the week. But when you look at it, I say, okay, here are the guys with the good plays. I think I'm fairly good at DFS. I'm smart, but I'm not like ingenious. So when I see statistics that a guy's going to be a good play, guess what? So does everybody else. So like a guy like Svensson last week, he was a no-brainer. going to be chalk, right? So what I'm trying to do here is to get off the chalk a little bit this week in some of my plays. One of these guys like Denny McCarthy, he's going to be high on no matter what. I just think that in a putting contest, I've got to have the best putter in the field. Like he's a guy that I have to have high exposure to, right? So sometimes it's a little bit of not overthinking it. But so my core takes on a little bit different look this week. Number one, we're starting with Adam Scott, not a guy that I play a ton, but he's been outstanding. Top 15 at the British Open or at the Open Championship. Top 15 at the U.S. Open. I have no idea why he's playing here. None. Like it doesn't make any sense to me why. Unless he's just gearing up for the FedEx Cup playoffs, maybe trying to play well so that he doesn't play in the first event. But it doesn't make any sense to me. So at this price point, with that history, he's an elite ball striker, or an elite ball striker, pretty decent off the tee, and his putting has been so good lately. I think he's kind of knocking on the door. It's hard because he's a guy that doesn't play a ton. But I really like Adam Scott this week at 9,300. A little bit more expensive on FanDuel, but I lock and load everywhere. Like I said, Dan McCarthy, 8,900. You're going to have to pay up for him this week. I don't care. Like, I just want the best putter in the field at an event that we've seen turn into a putting contest. So I'm not going to overthink it. I'm playing Denny, 8,900. Let's say maybe the question comes back then is how do we get leverage on the field? Well, if he's going to be 20% owned, which I can easily see, then I want to play Denny in like 50% of my lineups. The nice thing is DFS Army, if you're using an optimizer, you're building 150, you can put a minimum on him, right? You can increase his projection, right? So you can get that leverage on the field and ensure that if Denny has a good week, you're going to have a good week. And sometimes that's what it comes down to, is just one guy that you're over the field on, that if he finishes in the top 5, I'm cashing, I'm positive for the weekend. And I think sometimes in DFS, we worry too much about the win and not as much about the, hey, I'm positive ROI this week. And if you can just stack positive ROI weeks, positive ROI weeks, positive ROI weeks, you're going to see that bankroll start to grow. It's when you have negative, negative, negative. And then because of the high variance, you change everything that you're doing. I'm going to do this, I'm going to play more, I'm going to play less, I'm going to, smash, I'm going to put a guy in 150 of my lineups, right? Well, maybe that works once, but once you get away from that formula that's been successful for you in the past. Now, if you don't have a formula that's been successful for you in the past, then you should be changing, right? But when you get away from that a little bit, and maybe that's what I'm doing this week by changing up my core a little bit, but I don't know. I like the leverage that I'm getting here. So again, Denny McCarthy, he's the best putter in the field. Don't overthink it. Adam Svensson, price drop, chalk last week, missed the cut. What's going to happen to his ownership this week? My hope, we're early, it's Monday. My hope is that because of all of the good plays in the 7K range, because the 7K range is stacked this week, that we're going to see Svensson come in underowned. Again, one of those cases, we saw something there, it didn't happen. I'm going right back to it, right? We see this in Showdown a lot. You play a guy for round 2, looked great in round 1 in terms of statistics that we're looking for. Stroke gained approach, was hitting it tight, missing some short putts, whatever. Round 2 doesn't quite do it. We don't play him in round 3. All of a sudden he goes off. If you see something that's there, it's likely there and it's going to happen. So right back to the well with Svensson this week. I'm not going to think twice about it. Right back. And then a guy who has been sneakily playing some outstanding golf, Mr. Bojangles himself, the wind man. I got the picture there because that's what he looks like. But Chesson Hadley struggled a little bit on Sunday at the 3M or at the fifth major, the 3M Open, but finished in the top 10. Was +1. Was right in the mix for up at the top there most of the week. And he's been striking the ball really well. He's been putting the ball well. His around the green game, not great, but I don't really care. Like Chesson Hadley at 6,900, I think the upside is huge here. Huge. And probably my favorite sub 7K play of the week on Chesson. The guys, he's just got a ton of game. I'm very intrigued by his play lately, and at 6,900, I think that the upside is there. For big old Chesson Hadley, Mr. Bojangles, snapping it himself every time he makes a putt. Guy that I like to cheer for. So I'm getting him into my core this week. And I think that has some GPP winning upside because we've seen guys like him win here in the past. If we click to the next slide, it's my LIB showdown plays from round 1 of the last tournament. We don't have pricing yet for LIB, but we will have that content up for you guys again this week. And that'll be for our DFS Army VIPs. Like I said, use that code up north. That gets you 10% off. I'm getting in under my 15-minute time limit here because I respect your time, baby. Let's go. Have a great week. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.